Christine and I are speaking, and we're not going to include anybody else's voice or images. And then we will put this live recording up in the Google Classroom so you can see it later. This is a PDP course for 12 PDPs, and all the coursework is due by Sunday, July 19th. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm Michelle Austin. I'm an ESL teacher and also an I teacher, which is a district trainer for the Worcester Public Schools. And my colleague Christine Lloyd, who's the Science and Engineering Curriculum Liaison, and also an I teacher for the Worcester Public Schools.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. So here's our meeting norms. Mute your microphone. If you have questions, type them in the chat. And basically, whichever one of us is not talking is going to be monitoring the chat. Somebody said, is this free Pear Deck or a subscription version? I used the free Pear Deck to create this, but people do not need a Pear Deck subscription in order to be a participant in a Pear Deck. Okay. So there's a question here, which applies to you. So you should, in the Pear Deck part, have a place where you can answer a question. And I see 9 people have answered, 20 people have answered.
And again, if you're not in the Pear Deck, that's fine.
So I see 80 people have answered. So you can see in Pear Deck, I am now showing the answers live. So there are 3 choices. I've joined the Google Classroom for this workshop. I have not attempted to join the Google Classroom for this workshop. I tried but failed to join the Google Classroom for this workshop. Okay, so the problem that I think some people are having is if you tried, can you mute your microphones, please? If you tried to log in using your district Gmail, it is possible that your district has set limitations on the account so that you cannot join a Google Classroom outside of your district. So I am guessing that that is the problem that people might have had. So after this session, join again. You need to join with a personal Gmail account if it doesn't work for your district Gmail account. And if you don't have one, you can get one quite easily. Okay, so we have formatted this class as 10 things we wish we'd known about Google Classroom sooner. We can tell from your entrance surveys that most of you have had some experience with Google Classroom. And we are looking back to when we were first starting to use Google Classroom and the sort of, oh man, if I had only known that, my life would have been easier. So we are going to try and make you aware of some of those things in this presentation. Christine?
So I'm just responding to the chat. Give me one moment. What we're going to be doing in this live session today is definitely giving you an overview of those 10 things that Michelle was just speaking of. Overview being the key word there, that we are not going to be going step by step on how to do any of those skills. Those will all be in the classroom for you. In the survey, we actually found that most people here preferred the videos that they could watch and rewatch for them to learn the skills. We are going to share the how-to resources for all the topics that are discussed and talk about what the, oh, sorry, you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted to go to the next slide, I apologize.
That's okay, and talk about what the requirements are to get the 12 PDPs. So that's what we're really doing in this session today. We are not, again, going to be doing those step-by-step directions or talking about other pieces of Google Classroom during the session. We do have our office hours for that, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So you can see this is a screenshot from our classroom. Everything will be going live at 11. So if you don't see anything in there, no worries, you're going to see it. You can see for each of the 10 things we're going to go through today, there are materials, and those materials include videos, articles, sites, for you to be able to see the step-by-step directions, for you to be able to watch a video of someone doing those skills and the theory behind it.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. Somebody's asking how we join Google Classroom. I'm going to say don't worry about Google Classroom right now because we don't need it for this meeting. I will, at the end of this meeting, show you a link where you can join the Google Classroom. Okay, so based on what Christine said, which best describes the format of this live seminar?
So this is like a little formative assessment for you.
So we're at 110. Right, most people got it. It's an overview of some useful features which you can later revisit in Google Classroom. If you feel like you need a detailed how-to step-by-step, don't despair, because we are going to have some drop-in meetings and we can help you with some one-on-one things if that's what you need later in the week. Okay, Christine.
Yep, so the drop-in sessions. If you think about different types of PD, what we're doing right now with you in this live synchronous session is what I would call an awareness PD. Something that we're going to make you aware of all of the tools that Classroom has to offer and how you might use them. When you go to do your asynchronous work or your work on your own, that is going to be the skill-based PD, where you're going to be going in and trying all of the skills that we are making you aware of today. During that time, you'll also be able to drop into any of these 4 meetings, and they are not mandatory. You do not have to stay the whole hour. And this would be, again, that skill-based PD session where you would come in and we would walk you through or help you along if you're having trouble doing some of those skills that we're laying out or making you aware of today. There's also, I believe, Michelle, going to be an advanced option PD later, which would be more of a design level PD, where then you take these skills and go ahead and design your own classroom using all of the skills that you're learning. So know that in our time today is our awareness. And then in these sessions, you can come and help build those skills if you're having trouble doing it independently.
Okay. So remember we said we're going to do 10 things, and this is a whirlwind. This is just awareness. I know that I initially had trouble with how the types of tasks work, and I see other people as well. So there are assignments, quiz assignments, questions, and materials, and they're all a little bit different. So when you go into Google Classroom and you create, sorry, my window was blocking what I needed to see. When you create something, you have a choice of an assignment, a quiz assignment, a question material, or you can reuse a post. So assignments, points are awarded, and this is the important part. Assignment is the only way to make a copy for each student or share editing. It's good for assignments with manual marking and a use of rubric. Quiz assignment, points are awarded. It's good for automatic marking and grading, and you can view all the responses in a Google Sheet. Questions, no points are awarded. It's good for a single question, quick survey, short answer, multiple choice, or proof of viewing video. I now, if I don't have the video embedded in something else, if I put a video out for students to watch, I just put one little short question so that I know that they've watched it, because then I have a list of everybody that's answered it. And materials are no points awarded, good for reading assignment or lesson preparations. Okay, so now when you're in an assignment, see down at the bottom, it says once you save or post an assignment, you cannot later change it to make a copy. You have to create a new post. So before you make an assignment, you need to be clear on, is this student going to work on it on their own? Are they going to work on it with other people, or do they just need to read it? Because these are different. So there's view, edit, and make a copy. And if you forget to do that at the beginning, you just have to repost the whole thing and delete that, because you only have one chance to make a copy. And I know that when I first started doing this, this caused me all kinds of grief. So here's a question. How should you share an assignment if you want students to work independently and submit their work to you? So go ahead and answer that.
And for those of you that haven't used Pear Deck before, just a little note, what you're seeing on the Zoom screen is what we would call the teacher view. And then what you're seeing on your screen, if you have a split screen or a second device, is what we would call the projector view. So what your students would see.
Okay, so yes, make a copy for each student. This is, I would say, the number one thing that I have noticed people having trouble with when they first start using Google Classroom. Okay, Christine, go ahead.
All right, so the second thing is having a plan for using topics. And this is really all about organization. There's no right or wrong way to organize your classroom, but you should have a plan going in before you're pushing it out to students. So this is one of my favorite quotes that when I was in the classroom with students and we were creating our science binders for the year would be at the top of that. You know, science is organized knowledge and wisdom is organized life. So it's really all about organization. So go ahead. When you think about going into your classroom, what you're really thinking about is setting up this Google Classroom as you might have your students set up their student binders. There's 3 ways that most people set up their classrooms. I should say 4. The first way is no organization at all, just continuing to post things with no topics. What topics allow you to do is create those files or those binder dividers in your binder. One way is through this unit organization. So you can see here on the left, and I'll show you a big picture in a moment, that each topic is the unit for that class. Another way is by date. So week 1, week 2 would be your topic names. Or maybe you want to organize your topics from assignments. So here are year-long assignments. Here's our homework. Here are our projects. Go ahead, Michelle. You can see the first one a little bigger by unit. So if I was teaching chemistry, I might have my units lined up. My topics are these big words. What's great about topics is that you can put emojis in. And again, those are in the videos that are in the classroom. And then underneath each topic are the materials the students would need. Keep going. This one is date organization. So you can see again, the topics are the week of, and then underneath are the materials or questions or assignments that you're assigning for those units. And then finally, the assignment organization is the third most common way that people organize their classrooms. And you can see here, we've got year-long assignments with the materials. What is my substitute work? What are my projects? What are my tests? Go ahead.
I'm going to jump in and say, somebody's saying, are we supposed to be doing something or just listening? And will this include Google Classroom and Pear Deck? So you can just listen. There are times in the middle of this session where we ask a question in Pear Deck, but if that is stressing you out in any way, don't worry. You can just follow along. Google Classroom is something that will happen after this session, and we'll send you information on that.
Yep, and this is recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again if you need, and then we'll be available for those help sessions as well. So what you want to remember about topics, kind of, did you know? If you make topics and you have assignments or materials in them, unless you push out, it's called, those materials, students don't see them. So right now, for example, in the classroom that we have set up for this course, Michelle and I have already populated all of our topics and all of our assignments, but you can't see any of them yet because we haven't scheduled them to be pushed out. So you can always do kind of that back work or the behind the scenes work in classroom, which is great, without having to have your students see what you're doing. As you add topics, they're always going to be added to the top of your classwork page. And it's a simple drag and drop to organize them. So no worries there. You can organize them as you add them. But when you are creating different classrooms, so let's say that you have a period 2 chemistry class and a period 3 chemistry class. You can't reuse topics. You can reuse materials. But what you could do is once you have decided on your organization structure, you could take all of the topics, put them in the classroom the way you wanted them, and then copy the entire classroom and rename it for that second course. So again, it's worth the time to really think about how am I going to organize my topics for the year and then be able to copy that entire classroom if you have multiple sections. Knowing that as long as you don't push anything out in that topic, no students will see it. So if you don't end up using it, it's okay.
Okay. So here's a question. Which kind of organization makes the most sense to you? And there's no right answer here.
So we are going to talk about the stream in a minute. I'm just going through the chat right now. That's one of the 10 things we're going to talk about today is how to organize the stream and what are some of your options there.
Okay. So
you push out topics by putting in materials. And we're going to show you how to do that today as well.
So you can see that we really have it mixed between unit organization, date assignment, and assignment organization. And there truly is no right answer, but your life will be easier and your students will have an easier time if before the start of the term, you figure out what system you want to use and stick with it. Oh, just a second here. Oops. Okay, next. So this is something else I wish I had known, how to save an assignment. When you first create an assignment, I have that highlighted. When you first create an assignment, you can post it immediately, save a draft, or schedule it to post at a later date. So I have here a little GIF file. If you look at it, you can see what it looks like to schedule material. So I might be doing all of my work for the next week over the weekend, and I can schedule this assignment for Monday, this assignment for Tuesday, this assignment for Thursday. Another way to do it is, if you don't know the exact amount of time it's going to take for something to do, you can save work as a draft. And then when you're ready to push it out to students, then you can go in and edit it and save it. Quick question, did you already know about the schedule feature?
I love it. So I'm reading the chat and there are a few people who did, there are a few people who didn't. Some people are answering in Pear Deck. This is great.
So I did this example. Oops. Sorry, I got myself on the wrong place. Okay, so here you guys were all going to say yes, and I knew that, or no. But what I wanted to point out is that you have this option if you ever use Pear Deck of having people just write their own answers. You might want to make sure you always check the answers before you share it with your students. I learned the hard way that you want to put a filter between yourself and students. But I know that teachers can all be accounted on to put something responsible. Okay, how to manage the stream. I know we had some questions about this before, and Christine's gonna carry on about this.
So, Michelle,
Sorry.
before we do that, Claire had a question in the chat, and I'm not sure of the answer. I believe I know it, but it says, if I want evidence that students have watched a video, is the only way through question? And I'm understanding that if you use question, that actually won't give you evidence that they've watched the video, correct?
Well, yeah, there's nothing in Google Classroom that makes you be able to tell which kid watched your video. If you put your video in YouTube and it's something that you own, you can click count. So I use this question as like a proxy. You know, I want all students to answer it, and I usually do something like write one thing you remember about one thing you remember, or one question you have about the video, for
Correct.
example.
So
And
Google Classroom's not tallying.
Right, Google Classroom is not tallying. And I set it so that kids can't see other people's answers. So I can get an idea based on that. We're not gonna do it in this class right now, but there is something called Edpuzzle. If you want to embed questions and proof of viewing, there is a program called Edpuzzle.
Thanks.
Google Classroom doesn't do it, but it works very well with it. And Edpuzzle is going to be in my second class that I teach later in the month.
All right, so now we're going to move on to how to manage the stream. And I was so excited when I found this out. So, you know, first impressions are the most lasting. And what happens is that when someone goes into your classroom, whether it's a parent or a student, right, the first thing they're going to see by default is the stream. And unfortunately, with Classroom, the default for stream is that it just shows everything you've put into classwork into your stream, but it doesn't organize it in the same way that your classwork is organized. So what I found is that if we go into settings, we can actually change the way our stream looks. So go ahead, Michelle, next one.
Oops. I'm having so many problems here today. I apologize. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So on the left, you can see that the picture is what the default stream would look like. So that anything that I put into stream will just show up in my stream on my Classroom. But on the far right, what you'll see is what I call the managed stream. And that's actually what our Classroom looks like for this course. And in the managed stream, what I can do is I can change my settings. So if I go into my settings and then in general, I can change it so that my stream will only show any notifications to the, any announcements to the class that I make directly in the stream, so that nothing I'm doing in classwork is showing up in the stream. And I think that's really important for students, because that way the stream is just your maybe syllabus or your announcements for the course and your contact information. And then the classwork where you've organized your topics is really where students should be going to find out what's next and what to do. And again, the video that you see here playing in the middle is in our Classroom, and you'll be able to watch that and see how to do those instructions. So to repeat it, Classroom on the left is your default version. So anything you put in classwork shows up on your stream. On the right, on the managed picture, I've changed the settings of my stream so that the only thing that shows in my stream is an announcement that I specifically make within the stream, not something that I've done in the classwork tab. And I think that's really powerful for students to have that first impression of your Classroom. So again, here's that default and then the managed. And you can see how much better the managed looks because it's just those important pieces.
Yeah. Okay. How to manage comments. Set your expectations for productive communication. There are two types of comments. Class comments can be seen by everybody in the classroom and can be answered by anyone in the classroom. And private comments are only seen by the teacher and the student. Private comments are available on each assignment or each question. So you'll notice that that little, I made a screenshot. It always says what kind of comment it is. So think about that when you are typing. And in your settings, under general, you can decide whether students can post and comment, students can only comment, or only teachers can post or comment. So I teach middle school, and the first time I put out a Google Classroom, I didn't set this out, and my whole stream was like, hi, 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 what's up, hi, fuck, hi. And when I saw the F word, excuse me for using it, I went, ah! And I figured out how to do this. I wish I had known that before I ever opened up a classroom to kids. So I now disable student comments. I'm going to spend my class time doing something other than enforcing school norms on comments when they think of it as like social media.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are some reasons a teacher might find it prudent to disable student comments? And here's one where inappropriate comments. And sorry for my curse. I meant to say fudge to give you the idea, and it just came out. Yeah. So depending on your, you probably don't have inappropriate language in the youngest grades or the oldest, but in middle school, it's for sure a problem.
So when we think of, right, teaching our students to be those digital citizens, sometimes we just have to put in those filters for them as we teach them those skills.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to teach them those skills, but life is short.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to waste my time on it in every situation working on teaching the skills. I just sometimes put the filters on. Okay, so Christine, you want to talk about email notifications?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I heard this term, communication fatigue, and the first time I heard it, I was like, oh yes, I have that. I don't know about everyone else, but when we first went into this remote learning, I would say the first 2 weeks, my email inbox was just overloaded with everyone who was telling us all of the different resources they had. And then when we started using multiple classrooms for different things, my email box was even more full based on all of the notifications I was getting from classroom, both as students and as a teacher. And so I thought this communication fatigue term really fit for what I was feeling in that moment. I'm the type of person who likes to have no more than 50 emails in my inbox, and it was stressing me out a lot. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead, guys, and answer this for us.
Drag the icon.
So I have communication fatigue and too many emails.
Is this working for people? Are you able to drag on it?
Yep.
I don't know quite what's going on with that slide, but we do have a lot of communication fatigue. Somebody asked me about, I don't know why it's going back and forth between the two things. Somebody asked me about Pear Deck. I'm going to do Pear Deck in the later session that I teach. But if you just want to Google Pear Deck, it's very easy. It's actually an add-on for Google Slides. And Pear Deck has a free version and a paid version, and I'm using the free version. And again, we're not really going to address Pear Deck in this class, but I wanted to expose you to it, let you know that it exists.
So when we think about our email options within Classroom, you really have 3 options, but notice that underneath each option, it's the same idea of have a clear schedule and system for communication. So if you're going to have all of your emails on or all of your emails off or only specific emails coming in from specific classes, then you just want to make sure that you have communicated with your students and the other stakeholders in your course as far as I'm going to be checking work, every Tuesday and Thursday by 4 o'clock. And then I will be open for emails or open sessions during this time. And so how you adjust your communication and how you adjust your emails, there's no right or wrong, but making sure that you have that clear schedule and system for communication in place before starting the course is essential. So one of the options in your settings is all emails off. So that will mean you will no longer get any emails at all from Google Classroom as a teacher or as a student. Your other option you have is that within specific classes, you can shut certain emails off for those classes. So I can say, okay, I only want to receive emails from this Intro to Google Classroom and from my summer school class. And for all of my other classrooms, whether I'm a teacher or a student, I can shut them all off. Or you might say, for all of my classrooms, I only want to receive emails when a student turns in new work. So that's what we would call a specific task. And again, all of these screenshots and videos are in our Google Classroom. So you will be able to go in and kind of watch them at your own pace and see how to during that session, remembering that this is your awareness session. Michelle, are we caught up in our chat?
Yeah, some people are asking about the advanced session. Let's just leave that alone for now. At the end of this session, I will send out a flyer for the advanced session.
Mm-hmm.
It's separate from this one. A separate class, an additional 12 points.
So Katie had asked about shutting the email off. So I think what you mean, if you're the teacher of the class, then yes, you can shut the emails off for the teacher. Students can also do that. So know that they have the option as well to change their email notifications in a class. Now, if you were the teacher of a class and you were to go into People and send an email to all students, they would get that email. It's just those defaulted or automatically generated emails that you can shut off through Classroom. What's also important to know as you're working in Classroom is you can leave your email notifications on and create filters in your inbox. So if you are, kind of fluid with Gmail, that is where you can actually create the filters. So you're still receiving all the emails, but they'll be filtered out of your inbox and into different places. And maybe that's how you're going to manage that communication for Classroom. Purpose, again, is to limit this communication fatigue. Or if you are someone who actually likes to do the work on your cell phone, or you have students who likes to do work on their cell phone, they can actually download the Classroom app on their phone, and then they can change the push notifications there. So instead of receiving emails, they would receive push notifications on their cell phone. And again, these how-tos are all in our Classroom.
Yeah, some people were asking, can we share links to this? The links are going to be in the Classroom.
Yep. At 11 o'clock, you're going to have links for everything. So again, this is your awareness session for this hour. And then for your asynchronous time will be all of your skill-based work, and will be available for 4 different hours before the end of the course to help you with the skill-based structure.
Somebody said if you shut off all emails, could you still get the emails from students that ask questions? Yeah, if they send you a comment, that comment goes to your email. So I have all of my emails turned off. I am very compartmentalized. I want to go to my classroom and to my students, not having them bombard me. But if somebody sends puts a comment in the class with a question, that question does go to my email. But I'm just not getting emails saying they turned in an assignment, they turned in an assignment, they turned in an assignment. Somebody asked about what's the recommendation if you have co-teachers. I would say it depends on what the 2 co-teachers want. So just awareness of this and knowing that you should talk about what works for both of you is how you should go.
Yeah, Michelle, do you want to go back 1 page?
Yeah.
So again, I think it all goes back to that statement underneath, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing with your emails, you or your co-teachers or anyone else. It's really just about having that clear schedule and system for communication. So it's setting up those norms for how you're going to run the classroom. So that if you're saying, okay, I'm going to check all assignments on Tuesday morning, then whether or not you have your emails on or off, you're still only going to be checking those assignments on Tuesday morning. So just setting up those norms for your co-teachers, your students, your parents, all the stakeholders involved is the important piece here. And the settings can help each individual handle their communication the way they want to. I thought it was interesting when we did the question, not everyone felt that communication fatigue was happening to them. They enjoyed getting the emails from a lot of people. So that's what's great about Classroom is it's individual settings that you can change and not for the whole class.
Okay. Let's skip this. Using the people functions. Christine, you want to keep going?
Yeah, so there's two things we're going to talk about here. One of them is the people function, and the other is how to really make Classroom work for differentiation within your class. So go ahead.
Christine, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
Somebody is saying they cannot hear the presenter. I can hear the presenter. Is there anybody else that's having trouble hearing the presenter? Say it in the chat if you're having trouble. Okay, so some people are saying no. Some people are saying occasionally. So
it might be their streaming or their web connection.
Yeah, I think your web connection, Christine, is good because I can hear you just fine, and lots of people are able to find.
Yep.
So if you're having trouble, see if you have any other windows open that you can close. That sometimes helps.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
So using the people functions, you can go ahead to the next one. All right, so here we go. So in the people function, what you'll be able to do, so you have, and I'm calling it a function, I should really call it a tab. You have your stream, your classwork, your people, and your grading tab. If you're in your people tab, what you're able to do is actually email all students or individual students at one time. And this can be really great if you have a large class. So for example, in this class, right, we have 181 participants right now. And if we wanted to email all of you, Classroom makes it so easy because I can just check on this left box here and I can email everyone. Or if I just had to get in touch with a couple of people, I can go through my Classroom list, check on the boxes, and email them from here. So this people function can be very handy within that spot. You can also mute people. So I think what we have found in remote learning in some classes in Worcester when we started this is that there were some in the primary grades, parents who were being more voiceful than maybe was intended for the classroom space. And so it was easy to go in here and just mute those participants so that they could still see the assignments, but then they would not be able to make those comments anymore, which was helpful for us. So I see one here, schools blocked emailing students, so I had to use the, so the parent's email address can go in here too if your school does not have their functions. It doesn't have emails for your students. All right, go ahead, Michelle.
Somebody's again asking about the Google Classroom. We will share this again at the end of this session.
Yep. So this is what I find the most powerful about Google Classroom. And the most powerful about Google Classroom for me is that they really have made it easy to differentiate your instruction within your assignments. So for some assignments, you might push them out to the entire class. So everyone in your class gets the same assignment, the same reading, the same video, the same questions. What you can also do is you can choose who certain assignments go to. So maybe you want to do group work. So if I wanted to do group work and I have a class of 20, I might choose my 5 people in my participants function when you go to create the assignment, and then send them one reading with a slide deck that tells them what to do. And then another group, again, I would send them a different reading, or maybe the same reading with a different slide deck. What's important there if you're doing group work is you just have to remember that you don't want to change, when you put the settings in for your slide deck, let's say they're all working on, you don't want to make a copy for each student, you just want to give them editing rights. And then you have to change your name of the file in your classroom. And again, that's all in our classroom of the how-tos to do that. The other great piece for differentiation, Let's say that you have a student who one of their accommodations is that they get extra time. When you create this assignment, you can give them a different due date than another student gets. So you would select maybe the 2 students in your class or 5 students that get extra time, and you can change the due date of the assignment for those 5 students. You can push out different reading levels of assignments to different students, and no one is going to know, no student is going to know that they received a different reading level than another student, because in the participant function, you're allowed to select certain students. You can also allow for more or less choice in assignments. So let's say one of your assignments is choose 2 of these 5 readings. Well, maybe you'll say, okay, here, choose 1 of these 2 readings. So again, we can meet the accommodations for our students within our classroom settings. And I think that's really powerful. Extensions. Maybe you have students who are always finished early and they need something extra to do. You don't have to send that extension assignment out to everyone. You can just send that out to those students who are ready for the next step or ready for more. And that way you're not overwhelming those students who are not ready for more, and then they think they have to complete everything that's on your classwork page. So again, when you're in classwork and you're creating a new assignment or a new question or a new quiz, you do have the ability to choose specifically which students those go to, and it can be 1, multiple, or the whole class. And so that's a powerful function for Google Classroom.
I'm going to jump in and answer a question. Somebody said, how do you attach a slide deck? When we're creating these assignments, there's a little ad. I'm kind of pointing to it. It's really, actually, let me see, can I make this bigger? No. Oops. You can click the ad, and then there's the little triangle that looks like the Google Drive. If you click on that, then you can add anything that's on your Google Drive. You can add a form, you can add a slide deck, you can add a spreadsheet, you can add a doc. So a slide is not any different than any other kind of Google Doc in terms of being able to share it on Google Classroom.
And I think someone said that it's too small, the screen that's in like the top right. So just to remind you, we're just giving you all the awareness now. You're going to get a copy of the slide deck. We will be able to take that video, make it bigger, watch it and rewatch it. All that you'll need to do to build the skill level for these things. This is not in the people section. This is when you create an assignment or a quiz.
Yeah. Okay. Skip that. Christine, we really clustered yours together. Can you do one more using the to-do lists?
Absolutely. Are we all caught up in the chat?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Keith, that's more complicated than I can answer here. If you want to call back, or if you want to join one of our Q&A sessions, I can talk to you about this.
All right. So when you're using to-do lists, this is a function that I found out about in the last 2 months, and I found that this was really powerful for my third grade student actually. So I'm a mom, and I have a 9-year-old, and he was in his first remote learning. So you have to-do lists, and the to-do lists are not just for teachers, but students have them as well. So even the smallest steps move you forward, right? Every little piece that I can see, it's going to help me move forward in what I'm supposed to be doing. All right, go ahead, Michelle. So as the teacher, when I go into my classes, right before all of my classes are listed is this little to-do button. And if I click on the to-do button, what I can see is every task or every assignment that I've given in every single one of my classes, and it will tell me how many people have turned it in and how many I have graded. So it's a quick kind of snapshot view of, listen, you have this much work to do for all of your classes. I found it interesting. I think one of the chat, they said, what do I do if I have this many sections with this many students? I think this is where the to-do function is really going to come in handy for you. This to me was overwhelming when I looked at it from all of my classes together. What was helpful is that within each class, I also have a to-do function. And that's on the left of your stream when you go into your class as a teacher. on the left of your stream is also a view work or what needs to be done function. If you are in the all classes function, you can also, there's a little pull down menu where you can say, okay, just show me what I have to do for this class. On the right side of your screen, you'll see individual classes. This is the grading tab. So you can see you have your stream, your classwork, your people, and then the grades tab. If you click on the grades tab, it will show you all of your assignments. It will show you the grades that you've given. And if there's ever that green grade with the line that's in front, that tells you that's something that you still have to look at. So again, Google Classroom is just like any other Google app where there's multiple ways to do this one thing. So there's the to-do list, which you can find with your 3 bars menu, or there's your grading tab where you can then see for that one particular class, what is it that I still have to look at, or who has turned in assignments that I haven't graded yet.
Okay. We're getting a ton of questions about how to use other languages in Google Classroom. And I'm going to tell you what, I have taught a 15 PDP class a dozen different times on using digital tools to help English learners. There are an enormous number of things that you can do, but it's really beyond the scope of this class. I was going to do, I was going to include this in my later, more advanced class. So people who are really interested in that can come back. But I'll tell you what, by tomorrow, I will put a little section in our classroom with some resources on using Google tools in other languages. I'm going to say that Google Classroom itself does not adapt to other languages very well, but there are some tools within Docs and Sheets and some add-ons or some plugins, sorry, that help. So I'm not going to address any more things about second languages, but I know that this is something that is really urgent for teachers, and I will add something to the classwork for that.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, so and then it becomes the student. And again, I think this was really powerful for students, is that they also, for any class that they're enrolled in, have that same to-do function. So they can see, oh, what are the assignments that I have done and what am I missing? Then within each individual class, on their, they go into classwork on the top, it says view your work. And when you are able to do view your work, they can see what am I missing. You can see that on the right, it's in red. And then what have I done? And it also gives them the little comment function so that they can actually see what their teacher gave feedback on for each individual assignment. And it's all in this one snapshot place. And this was really powerful for my 3rd grader, for him to say, oh, okay, in math, what am I still missing? And what did she reply to me in my assignments? Because in the classwork function or in the classwork tab, it can be very overwhelming for students, especially the littles, to find where their feedback is coming from. And so these to-do lists were really powerful in using Google Classroom, and definitely one of those things that I wish I had known about when I first started using it.
Okay, now we're getting kind of tight on time.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip this because we're tight on time. 9 out of 10. Posting to multiple classrooms. I wish that I had known about this at the beginning, because I have 3 classes that are exactly the same, and I would put it in one class and then reuse it in another and then reuse it in another. I don't know whether this wasn't available when I first started using Classroom and I just missed when it came, but this has made my life so much easier. So you can post or save as a draft, but you can't actually schedule, which is a drag. So when you create something and you go up into the right-hand corner, you can pick multiple classes at the same time. And then you can save a draft or you can post it. So if it's Tuesday and I'm going to put it up for all the classes on Wednesday, I just go ahead and post it. Or I save it as a draft and go back and schedule it or post it class by class. And then this is something that Christine touched on earlier about how you can preserve an entire topic for later use. as I said, I taught a class 15 different times. And after I taught it twice and 3 times and I was reusing materials, it occurred to me I really needed to have a template for this class. So now whenever I'm teaching a particular class, I maintain a class template. This is just for me. I do not enroll students in it. And I keep materials I want to reuse in future classes. And this is, so for example, if I am doing an activity right now for my ESL 1 kids that I think is a good activity that I might use next year, I am going to post it to, you know, period 1, period 5, period 7, and then also post it to my template. And then next year, when I come back, I can look at my template and it'll be there. This is also a good way to share assignments with other teachers. The 4 ESL teachers in my school maintain a template class. And so when we want to share something, we put it in there. And then when I'm in my regular classes, I can just reuse a post, pull it in from the template class, and that way very easily get materials that my colleague has created. Okay. That's just what I said. Okay, so this is just a reminder that we have drop-in sessions tomorrow and Thursday, and then also the next week, Tuesday and Thursday. The Google Classroom is going to, in 2 minutes, all of these assignments are going to be out there. There's independent work that you need to complete by Sunday, July 9th.
19th.
Sorry, I apologize, July 19th. All of this slide deck, the whole slide deck is in Google Classroom, but this slide with the instructions is in Google Classroom, so you should be able to see that. Okay, so I had said that I'm going to give information about joining Google Classroom. I think last time I looked, about 60 of you had already joined the Google Classroom. So there's a Google account. You use a Google account to join with the code. So if you haven't joined, I would say right now is a very good time to just write down this code. So take a piece of paper and a pencil and write ZSYDE4Q. I've given it to you other places, and I'll email it to you again if you need it. But here it is.
I'll also type it in the chat so people can copy and paste it if they need to.
Thanks. So if we said this before, but I'll say it again because it's a little confusing. If your school district Google account does not work, you might need to join with a personal Google account. And here's where it can be trouble. If your district account didn't work, be sure to log out of all other Google accounts before trying to join this class with a personal Google account. So I know sometimes that when I'm at home, I have my Worcester Public Schools
it's 11
account,
o'clock.
which tells us it's time to end. I have my Worcester Public Schools account open and my personal Gmail account open. And if they're both open, sometimes when you go into another program, it defaults to the one that you don't want it to. So just sign out of everything and then sign back into Google with the account that you want to use. Go up to the waffle, you know, the 4 dots at the end, and go to Google Classroom, and then you're going to hit the plus sign and join a class. Somebody is saying, why do I have to do an assignment with other people? Well, because we want to show you how tools work for collaboration. It's not greatly dependent on other people, and if everybody in your group were to do a bad job and you worked hard, you are still going to get credit. So it doesn't matter that much. It's a shared slide deck, and I want people to be able to see how a shared slide deck works and how you can do comments in a shared slide deck. So this assignment is a way of teaching you how to do something that can work very well to foster collaboration with your students. So it's both an assignment and a lesson.
Michelle, do you want to go over what sandbox means?
Yeah, Sandbox, you know what, I might just, is it now 11?
Yes.
Let me go off of here and go to my classroom, just a second here.
And as you do that, so someone asked, how do I get a group to work with? So what it is that when you go into our classroom and you go to the collaborative assignment, you'll see that we have prepared 5 different slide decks. One of them is for pre-K to 2 teachers. One of them is for 3 to 5 teachers. One of them is for 6 to 8 teachers. So what we're doing is you're working as a group, but you don't need necessarily to get together or communicate with other members of your group in any synchronous way or at the same time. It's just a way for you to see how one way you could do group work in Google Classroom. And so you would just click on whichever slide deck would be appropriate for your teaching area.
So I'm looking at my slide deck and I see a whole bunch of things scheduled for 11 a.m. and it's 11:02. So I'm wondering if somehow this district or this Google Classroom thinks I'm in another time zone. So when we're not all together in a group, as soon as we're done with this, I'll go fix this. But so we have these workshop assignments. And the first one is to just create a Google Sandbox. And a sandbox is just, it's a Google Classroom that you use just to play around with. I mean, you could call it a dummy class, except if you called it a dummy class and then kids saw that you called something a dummy class, they would say, why do you have a dummy class? So sandbox is just something to play around with. So as you're going through the assignments and it says, try doing this, in your dummy class, you can go in and you can try it. You don't need to share the dummy class with us because a lot of you will be making it in your school account and you can't share it outside of your account. But there are instructions here on how to create a class if you don't know. And I know I want to be respectful of people's time. But there's a work log and then there's a collaborative slide deck. This is the assignment people have to work on together. So if we were doing this like it was a school, I would assign each of these to you separately, but there were 250 people and they all hadn't signed into Google Classroom. So instead, I just made these different slide decks. So if you teach grades 3 to 5, you click on this, and then there's going to be a slide deck, and there are assignments for, or there are directions for the assignment, which I'm not going to go over here. I want you to read them on your own. And then you're going to go in and on one of these blank slides, you just start making your slide. Right? And you do your work and then people comment on other people's work. And so you don't have to pick a group in advance. You are going to be in a large group with people who teach the same level as you. Somebody said, what is a slide deck? A slide deck is just, you know how we say a PowerPoint presentation? It's the whole set of slides. In Google Slides, we don't usually say a Google presentation, we say a slide deck because it's, you don't always use it just for presenting.
I think I've caught up with the chat.
Okay. So let's go back to saying thank you very much. And as soon as we hang up from this, I'm going to figure out why. Oh, the workshop assignments did come out.
Yeah, I think they're getting there.
Yeah, they posted at like 11:03 and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to stay on. So if you have questions, feel free to stay on and we'll get you onto the classroom and clarify. And then Michelle, is it fair to say that if they are good and they understand kind of how to go into classroom and find their assignments, then they are free to go?
Yes, you are free to go. Now the slide deck that we just used, if you go into Google Classroom, it says live presentation materials. The slides are right here. So some people who were having trouble seeing our little videos